The galaxy had always been a place of uncertainty, where power shifted quickly and empires rose and fell. For centuries, the great alien civilizations ruled with ease, believing their strength and advanced technology made them invincible. Humanity, in their eyes, was nothing more than a small, insignificant species, barely capable of survival in a universe that tested everything. But something had changed, something that no one had expected. And it all began with a single, unexpected message. In the heart of the galaxy, a peaceful world called Erixus was suddenly attacked. The invasion wasn't by the usual enemies, the merciless warlords, or the self-righteous crusaders from distant star systems. No, this attack was far more mysterious, and its origin was unknown. The planetary defenses had been overwhelmed in a matter of hours, but not a single alien force was identified. The people of Erixus could only whisper about the strange ships that appeared in the sky, ships unlike anything they had ever seen before. As Erixus fell, the first communication went out to the galaxy. A simple message broadcasted across the stars, a single line that would change everything. We are coming. The galaxy had ignored humanity for far too long. Humans had no alliances with the great civilizations, no weapons, no advanced ships to compete with the might of the powerful alien fleets. But what the alien races didn't realize was that humanity had something they did not, something that had been hiding, building, waiting for the right moment. The spark that would ignite a rebellion no one could stop. The message from Erixus reached every major planet, every space station, and every fleet. It wasn't long before the greatest galactic powers started to react. The Galactic Council, a powerful organization made up of the most influential alien species, convened immediately. They had ruled for eons, maintaining peace by force, using threats and trade deals to control the galaxy's resources. The sudden appearance of the unknown enemy, who had taken down Erixus so easily, shook them to their core. The Council quickly assumed that humanity was the cause. After all, it was no secret that humanity had always been underestimated. But how could this species, so new to the galaxy, have this kind of power? It didn't make sense. Meanwhile, on Earth, the leaders of humanity were scrambling to understand what had just happened. A few of their brightest scientists and military strategists were brought together to form a secret council of their own. A council whose sole purpose was to learn about the mysterious invaders and, if necessary, prepare humanity for war. The leaders of Earth had never been prepared for such an event. No one had imagined that their peaceful planet would be drawn into a galactic war. But there was one thing they knew for sure. If they didn't act, humanity would be wiped out. The fate of the planet rested on their ability to understand what the unknown message truly meant and who was behind it. In the days that followed, rumors started to spread. Whispers of a strange group of humans who had been living in secret for decades. They were said to be hiding in the far corners of the galaxy, unknown to the rest of humanity. These humans had learned the secrets of the universe long before the Galactic Council had discovered them. They were the ones who had sent the message from Erixus. But why? What did they want from the galaxy? And why were they so powerful? As the days passed, humanity's leaders knew that they couldn't wait for answers from the alien powers. They had to act now, or they risked being swallowed by the darkness of a galaxy that had always seen them as insignificant. One by one, leaders of different human factions, military commanders, scientists, and politicians, gathered in secret meetings. They shared what little information they had gathered from their sources. The unknown ships had left nothing behind but destruction. Their technology was unlike anything humans had ever seen. They had weapons that could obliterate entire fleets in seconds. But the strangest part was how they operated. No orders were given, no commands were shouted. The ships moved in perfect harmony, as if they were all part of one mind. The human leaders were left with many questions and few answers. The most pressing of all was this: what did these invaders want? There were whispers that the message had been sent not only to warn the galaxy of the coming threat, but to challenge it. It was as though the invaders were daring the galaxy to oppose them, to fight back, to stand against them in a war that would test everyone's strength. In Earth's underground war rooms, military leaders began to prepare for the worst. They knew their technology was no match for the invaders, but they also knew something that no one else did. Humanity had a will to survive like no other species. They had fought wars on Earth for centuries. They had survived pandemics, droughts, and famine. And now, they were about to face an enemy unlike anything they had ever seen. But the question remained, could humanity really stand against such a powerful foe? As the preparations began, a sense of dread filled the air. The great alien powers of the galaxy, already aware of the mysterious ships, began to grow fearful. They knew that a war against an unknown enemy could lead to their downfall. The Council called for a meeting to discuss their strategy. They could not allow this threat to grow unchecked. But something unexpected happened. As the Council's meeting began, a new message was broadcast to the galaxy. This time, the message was not just a warning. It was a declaration. You have no idea who we are, but you will. Prepare yourselves, because humanity will not stand idly by. The words were simple, yet the impact was undeniable. The Galactic Council froze. The message had made it clear that humanity was not going to wait for an invitation to the fight. They were coming, and they were coming with everything they had. The galaxy's greatest powers had underestimated humanity for far too long, and now they were about to learn the true power of human resolve. But what did the humans truly know about the invaders? Were they just playing a dangerous game of bluff, or had they uncovered a secret that could change everything? As the message echoed across the stars, one thing was clear. The galaxy was on the brink of something no one could control, and humanity's defiance would be the spark that lit the fuse of a war that would change the course of history forever. The first battle was coming, and no one was prepared for what was about to unfold. In the days following the chilling broadcast from the unknown invaders, the galaxy was a flurry of confusion and fear. The message had ignited a spark, one that quickly spread, shaking the core of the Galactic Council. They were no longer just dealing with a threat to one world. The message, simple yet powerful, had made it clear. Humanity wasn't going to be passive. They were preparing for war. For the first time in centuries, the Council's power was questioned, and the alien races were left to ponder whether they had miscalculated the very nature of humanity. On Earth, leaders scrambled to assess their options, knowing that they could not stand alone against the might of the galaxy's greatest empires. Yet there was a stirring sense of defiance among humanity's leaders, a quiet determination that burned in the hearts of the military commanders and civilians alike. The world was divided. Some wanted to negotiate, to seek an alliance with the Council, hoping for peace, while others, more pragmatic, understood that there would be no negotiating with an enemy this powerful. Humanity had always been underestimated, but they had survived wars, plague, and famine. And now, they were faced with an enemy unlike any other. Yet there was something that set them apart: human ingenuity. As humanity braced for what was coming, their military forces began to mobilize, not just on Earth, but across the galaxy. A secret alliance formed, a coalition of scientists, engineers, and military strategists, all working in silence to develop new weapons, technology, and tactics. They had no choice but to innovate. Their survival depended on it. Meanwhile, the Council, aware of humanity's refusal to bow down, had begun preparing their own forces. But they, too, were in the dark. No one knew the true nature of the invaders. Were they simply a rogue faction of humanity, seeking to test the galaxy, or something more dangerous, something older than any of them could imagine? Tensions were rising. Old alliances were being tested, and distrust began to seep into every corner of the galaxy. Every race, from the stoic Zorathians to the fiercely independent Velerans, began to question their place in the coming conflict. Would the Galactic Council act as one, or would it splinter under the pressure? The unknown invaders had forced the galaxy into chaos, and now it was only a matter of time before the first shots were fired. Humanity's role in this impending war was still uncertain, but one thing was clear: they were not going to surrender. They were going to change the game, and the rest of the galaxy would have to catch up. As the months passed, the anticipation built, and the galaxy watched, waiting for the storm to break. Could humanity truly stand against the might of the Council's united forces? Or would they be crushed, forgotten in the annals of history? The storm was gathering, and soon it would be unleashed. But no one could have predicted just how devastating that storm would be. The galaxy held its breath. Across every star system, the air was thick with tension as ships prepared for an inevitable conflict. The Galactic Council, once the undisputed ruler of the galaxy, could no longer ignore the defiance of humanity. Their previous underestimation of Earth's ability to fight back had ignited a fire that was now burning brightly through every faction and species. What the Council had expected to be a simple, quick strike had become a monumental challenge that threatened to reshape the very fabric of the galaxy. On Earth, military leaders had united like never before. The fighting spirit that had long defined humanity in the face of impossible odds had awakened once again. It was no longer just about survival. It was about proving that humanity was more than just a small, insignificant player in a galaxy filled with vast empires and ancient races. Earth's fleets had been trained in secrecy, their advanced technology ready for the moment they would face the alien forces. No one knew exactly what the first clash would look like, but everyone could feel that it would mark the beginning of something much larger. As the first shots were fired, it was clear that humanity wasn't backing down. The invaders, with their superior fleets and centuries of experience, were taken aback by the fierce resistance that Earth's military had thrown at them. The first battle took place in the Outer Rim, where a small fleet of human warships clashed with a vastly superior alien armada. The aliens had underestimated Earth's ability to adapt and fight on their terms. The humans had always been resourceful, and now they were proving it. The human ships, built with the latest technology developed in secret, fought with a level of cunning and strategy that the invaders had not anticipated. While the human forces were outnumbered, they used their surroundings to their advantage, employing tactics that bent the very rules of space warfare. The invaders, caught off guard, struggled to keep up. Their massive ships, which were designed for brute strength, were unable to handle the humans' unpredictable maneuvers. Every turn, every calculated strike, was a testament to humanity's ingenuity. And while the humans had to rely on their smaller, more agile ships, they packed a punch that the invaders didn't see coming. For the first time, the invaders realized that humanity had far more to offer than they had assumed. The Council had underestimated them once, but now the galaxy saw that Earth's forces were willing to fight with everything they had. The fight wasn't just about victory or defeat. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. Humanity wasn't going to be enslaved or erased without a fight. And in that first clash, humanity made its mark, proving that they could hold their own against the might of the Council. The cost of the battle was high, but the results were undeniable. The invaders were not as invincible as they had believed, and humanity had dealt them a blow that would echo throughout the galaxy. But the war had only just begun. More battles, more clashes, and more sacrifices would follow. Yet, for the first time in the war, humanity knew one thing for certain: they could change the tide. The tables had turned, and it was only a matter of time before the galaxy would recognize humanity's true power. As the first clash ended, both sides took stock of their losses. The galaxy had never seen anything like this. A small, seemingly insignificant species had just thrown off the chains of its oppressors and struck back with unexpected ferocity. The fight was far from over, but humanity had proven that they could no longer be dismissed. The war for control of the galaxy had just begun, and now, humanity was in the thick of it. The galaxy would never be the same again. The battle had been hard-fought, and the casualties were high on both sides. Earth's forces, though not as numerous, had proved their resilience, leaving the alien invaders stunned. For the first time, the Galactic Council was forced to reconsider their view of humanity. They had expected a quick subjugation, but the humans had given them a fight like no other. Yet, as the smoke cleared from the battlefield and both sides regrouped, the question remained: could humanity continue to hold their ground? On Earth, leaders knew that the victory was only the beginning. They had disrupted the invaders' plans, but the war was far from over. The Council was vast, and their resources seemed endless. Humanity had only shown a glimpse of what they were capable of, but they still faced an uphill battle. While their fleets were impressive, Earth's forces were outnumbered. However, there was something else at play: human ingenuity. Humanity had always found ways to adapt, to turn the impossible into possible, and now it was their greatest weapon. While the war raged on, Earth's scientists and engineers worked day and night to push the boundaries of their technology even further. They knew they couldn't just rely on their military alone. They had to find ways to tip the scales in their favor. The humans were inventing new strategies, new weapons, and new technologies at an astonishing rate. Each new breakthrough made their forces stronger, more capable, and more unpredictable. It was a race against time, as the Council had begun to regroup and strengthen their own forces, learning from their mistakes in the first battle. The Council was desperate. They had never expected such a fierce rebellion from a species they considered inferior. Their military was formidable, but it had not prepared them for humanity's unique approach to warfare. They had underestimated the humans' creativity, their refusal to accept defeat. Now, the Council faced a dilemma. How could they defeat an enemy that refused to break, one that constantly adapted and surprised them? In an effort to end the conflict once and for all, the Council decided to escalate their tactics, deploying their most powerful weapons and forces to crush humanity's resistance. The stakes had never been higher. Both sides were now fully committed, and the war had taken on a new intensity. The next phase of the battle would be crucial. Earth's military was prepared to fight, but they knew that they couldn't win this war alone. It was no longer just about defeating the enemy on the battlefield. It was about taking the fight to the heart of the Council, where the true power of the galaxy lay. Humanity had shown that it could survive, but could they go on the offensive? Could they strike at the core of the Council and take control of the galaxy? As the pressure mounted on both sides, a new kind of alliance began to form. Humanity's success had caught the attention of other factions in the galaxy. While many still viewed Earth as a potential threat, some began to see the value in joining forces with humanity. If the Council could be brought down, there was a chance for new alliances to form, and the galaxy could be reshaped. Earth was no longer fighting alone. It had become the spark that could ignite a galaxy-wide rebellion. The question now was whether this alliance would be enough to defeat the overwhelming power of the Council. The tension was palpable. The next moves would determine the fate of the galaxy. Humanity had proven it could defy the odds, but could they keep this momentum going? As the war reached its turning point, both sides prepared for the next wave of conflict. The fight was about to escalate to unimaginable heights, and humanity was ready to do whatever it took to win. This was no longer just a battle for survival. It was a battle for the future of the galaxy itself. The question was no longer if humanity would win, but what price they would pay to do so. Would their sacrifices be enough to secure victory, or would they face a new kind of threat, one that would make their current enemies seem insignificant? The answers lay in the choices they made next, and humanity had to decide whether they were ready to risk everything for a chance to change the fate of the galaxy forever. The war had raged for months, and both sides had suffered heavy losses. But the Galactic Council was not one to back down easily. They had faced rebellion before, but never one as determined and resourceful as humanity. In the halls of their vast citadel, the leaders of the Council convened in secret, discussing their final move. They had underestimated Earth, and now they knew they were facing a force they could not ignore. They had to finish this war, and they had to do it quickly. For the first time, The Council began to truly fear the humans. Their fleets were expanding, their weapons more powerful, and their strategies more unpredictable. What had once seemed like a simple conquest was turning into a fight for survival. In their desperation, the Council's leaders called upon their greatest weapon, the Ascendant Fleet. It was a fleet of ships unlike anything humanity had ever seen, powerful beyond imagination, and capable of wiping out entire planets in a matter of hours. The Ascendant Fleet was the final hope for the Council, a weapon designed to ensure their control over the galaxy. Humanity knew the stakes had risen. The Ascendant Fleet was a terrifying threat, and the Council would not hesitate to use it. But the people of Earth were not about to surrender. They had already defied the odds once, and they were determined to do it again. Their military was ready for the challenge, and their resolve had never been stronger. The people of Earth had become more than just soldiers. They were symbols of hope for the galaxy, a living testament to the power of unity and defiance. As the Ascendant Fleet began its journey towards Earth, a sense of urgency spread across the human forces. They had to prepare for the final battle. The human fleet, now bolstered by new alliances, had been training for months, honing their skills and refining their strategies. But the Ascendant Fleet was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Its sheer size and power were overwhelming. It was a fleet built for domination, and the Council was prepared to use it to crush humanity once and for all. But humanity had one advantage: their unyielding will to fight. They had faced impossible odds before, and each time they had found a way to overcome them. Earth's leaders knew that they had to strike first. The longer they waited, the stronger the Ascendant Fleet would become. The time for defense was over. It was time to take the fight to the Council. In the heart of Earth's command center, plans were being finalized for a daring assault. The human fleet would meet the Ascendant Fleet head-on, hoping to catch the Council off guard and strike at the heart of their power. It was a risky plan, but it was their only hope. Humanity had nothing left to lose. As the two fleets prepared for the ultimate showdown, the entire galaxy held its breath. This battle would determine the future of the galaxy. If the Ascendant Fleet succeeded, the Council would maintain their grip on the galaxy. But if humanity could defeat them, it would be the end of the Council's reign and the beginning of a new era for the galaxy. The human forces knew they were up against impossible odds, but they were ready. They had become more than just a military. They had become a force of nature, a symbol of resistance that could not be extinguished. And as the Ascendant Fleet closed in on Earth, they knew that their final chance had arrived. The battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity was ready to redefine the fight. This was no longer a war for survival. It was a war for the future, a war for the chance to reshape the galaxy in their own image. And no matter the cost, humanity would fight until the very end. The fate of the galaxy would be decided in the coming hours, and humanity was prepared to make its mark on history. As the human fleet took its position, the lights of Earth's battle stations flickered, and the ground shook beneath their feet. The final conflict had begun. You said. The Ascendant Fleet loomed large in the skies, its ships casting dark shadows across the Earth as they approached. Their power was beyond measure, and the sheer scale of their size seemed to dwarf anything humanity had ever built. As the human forces lined up, ready for the confrontation, there was a heavy silence among the fleet commanders. Everyone knew the odds, and everyone knew the consequences of failure. But there was no turning back now. The tension was palpable as the human fleet engaged in their final preparations. Their ships, though smaller, were crafted with ingenuity and advanced technology. They lacked the overwhelming firepower of the Ascendant Fleet, but they had something the Council could never understand: determination. Human engineers had worked around the clock to develop specialized weapons, using alien technology captured in previous battles. Their ships had been modified to disrupt the Ascendant Fleet's communications, giving them a slight advantage. Across the vast expanse of space, both fleets began their approach. The Ascendant Fleet, a fearsome sight, began to fire its first shots, launching energy blasts that rippled through space. The human fleet dodged and weaved, evading the destructive blasts, and returned fire with precise shots aimed at the weak points in the Ascendant fleet's defensive shields. For the first time, the Council's ships faltered, something that hadn't happened in centuries. Humanity was fighting with everything they had, pouring all their resources into the battle. As the fleets clashed, massive explosions lit up the black void of space. The soundless explosions sent shockwaves through the fleets, sending ships into disarray. But the human fleet pressed on, dodging and weaving through the chaos, fighting back with a ferocity that no one had expected. Their strategy was working. They were pushing the Ascendant fleet back. The Council had not anticipated the resilience of the human forces. They had expected an easy victory. But the humans weren't just fighting to survive. They were fighting for their future, for their children, for the freedom of the galaxy. Every shot they fired, every maneuver they made, was a statement. The human will was unbreakable. As the battle raged on, the human fleet began to focus on the Council's flagship, the heart of the Ascendant fleet. It was a massive ship, unlike any other, bristling with weapons and defensive systems. Taking it down would cripple the Ascendant fleet and perhaps turn the tide of the war. The human fleet made its move, launching a coordinated attack on the flagship. The ships fired a barrage of missiles, each one homing in on the weak points in the flagship's armor. Explosions rippled across the surface of the massive vessel, and for a brief moment, it seemed as though the human fleet had gained the upper hand. But the Council wasn't finished yet. From the depths of the flagship, an enormous energy beam erupted, slashing through the darkness of space and sending a shockwave that rocked the human fleet. Several human ships were destroyed in an instant. The surviving ships faltered, but they quickly regained their composure and continued their assault. With each passing moment, the battle became more intense. The Ascendant fleet retaliated with everything it had, but the human fleet held its ground. They fought with the spirit of an entire galaxy behind them, determined to stop the Council's tyranny once and for all. As the battle stretched on, the human fleet began to realize something. This wasn't just a war for Earth, it was a war for the galaxy. The fate of countless worlds rested on their shoulders. Every victory, every inch of ground gained, was one step closer to ending the Council's reign. But every loss was a bitter reminder of the cost of their fight. With the Ascendant fleet still looming large, the humans knew they couldn't keep up this fight forever. They needed a final, decisive blow. They needed to strike the heart of the Council's power, the flagship, and bring it down once and for all. But the longer they fought, the more dangerous the situation became. The Ascendant fleet was relentless, and the pressure was mounting. But just as the human fleet was about to make its final push, something unexpected happened. From deep within the flagship, a transmission was sent, a message that stunned everyone who heard it. It was not a message of defeat or surrender, but a message of hope. The Council had made an offer. They were willing to negotiate. For a moment, the human fleet hesitated. Could this be a trap? Or was it the opening they had been waiting for? The message was clear. The Council was offering peace, but what was the cost? And could humanity trust them? The decision now rested with the leaders of Earth. Would they accept the offer and end the war, or would they continue to fight? The future of the galaxy was at a crossroads, and as the human fleet continued to clash with the Ascendant fleet, they knew that this decision would shape the future of every world in the galaxy. The war was far from over, but for the first time, the humans saw a glimmer of hope. Could they finally change the course of history? Could they end the tyranny of the Council and bring peace to the galaxy? Only time would tell. And as the battle raged on, one thing was certain: humanity had changed everything. The war had escalated beyond anyone's expectations. Humanity, once seen as insignificant, had taken on the mighty Ascendant fleet and defied every calculation the Council had made. But now, they faced their most difficult challenge yet. The message from the Ascendant fleet's flagship offered a chance for peace, but could they trust it? Could they risk stopping the battle, only to be betrayed in the end? The answer was unclear, but one thing was certain: humanity would not surrender without a fight. The decision was made in the highest chambers of the human command. After much debate, they chose to continue the fight. The council had fooled them before, and there was no guarantee they wouldn't do it again. Humanity had fought too hard, too long, to let their enemies dictate the outcome now. With renewed determination, the human fleet made one last push to cripple the Ascendant fleet once and for all. They knew that if they could destroy the flagship, it would send a message to every corner of the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated, that they could change the tide of any battle, no matter the odds. The final assault began with a ferocity unseen before. Human ships surged forward, maneuvering with precision as they launched waves of weapons at the heart of the Ascendant fleet. The flagship, the most powerful vessel in the galaxy, was their target. Their mission was clear: destroy the heart, and the rest would fall. The Ascendant fleet retaliated with everything they had. Energy beams and missiles ripped through space, shattering human ships in their wake. But the humans pressed forward, never faltering. They had come too far to turn back now. Then, as the flagship loomed ahead, something incredible happened. The human fleet's most advanced ship, the Defiant, broke through the enemy defenses and landed a devastating blow to the flagship's core. Explosions rocked the Ascendant fleet, and for the first time, the unthinkable occurred. The flagship's shields collapsed. With one final coordinated strike, humanity had done the impossible. The flagship, the symbol of the Council's power, was no more. The Ascendant fleet was in chaos, and for the first time in the war, the humans had the upper hand. As the remaining ships of the Ascendant fleet retreated, the human fleet regrouped. The victory was bittersweet. Countless lives had been lost, and the galaxy was far from safe. But the battle had been won, and humanity had proven that they were no longer the underdogs. They were a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy watched in awe as the humans, battered and bruised, stood victorious. For years, the Ascendant fleet had dominated the galaxy with an iron fist, but now the tides had turned. Humanity had shown that, no matter how dire the situation, they could rise to the challenge. But as the celebrations began, leaders from every corner of the galaxy began to wonder. What now? The Ascendant fleet was gone, but the war had left deep scars. The Council was shattered, but the vacuum left behind was dangerous. New threats could emerge from the chaos, and humanity would need to be ready. In the aftermath of the battle, peace seemed possible, but humanity knew better than anyone that peace was fragile. They had fought for their survival, and now they would have to fight for the future. The galaxy would never be the same, but one thing was clear: humanity would not back down. They had redefined the fight, and no one would ever forget that. As the human fleet returned to Earth, they did so as victors, but also as guardians of the galaxy. The war had changed everything. It had shown the galaxy that humanity was no longer just a species struggling to survive. It was a force for change. And as the humans looked toward the future, they knew that their place in the galaxy had been solidified. The war was over, but their journey had only just begun. Search. Reason. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info.